Welcome back, everyone, to one of our continuing live chats. We are really looking forward to having this conversation about flower essences and herbal medicine. This is such a cool topic. These two modalities are such good friends and play really well with each other. And we're really interested in hearing how you've been working with flower essences along with herbs. I mean, so many of us drink herb tea. Maybe you also take tinctures. Essential oils are also a form of herbal medicine. Are there other things that you're taking and also working with essences as well? We would really, really love to hear your input. Go ahead and we have the chat open if you have something you wanted to share there, or if you want to come in and talk about your experiences of combining flower essences and herbs, go ahead and raise your hand. And a little bit later on, Ro will be answering some questions. So, Rokana, perhaps you can start us off by explaining your experiences with herbs and what brings you to this moment of wanting to talk about this intersection.
Yes. So many of you may know me here as a teacher at the School for Flower Essence Studies and as a flower essence practitioner, but may not know that I do have a background in herbalism. I was a community herbalist. I worked at an herb store for several years. I've had a lot of different training in the past, just over kind of slow motion training over the decades, self-study, study with teachers such as the Herbal Academy, Matthew Wood School, Sage Popham's School for Evolutionary Herbalism, and some classes at the California School of Herbal Studies. So I've gotten to hear a lot of herbal viewpoints, and it's just a lifelong study that I've always been super fascinated with. I have used herbalism for myself more than anyone else, probably just dealing with my own challenges and chronic health issues that I never had very much success with from Western medicine. And so I'm always looking for ways to incorporate the botanical medicines that I work with together and looking at the different octaves that each type of modality offers. Um, Also, I did aromatherapy training and aromatic medicine and essential oil training. So I do have that piece as well. But I do want to offer a disclaimer before we go too much farther in that, um, I'm not a doctor and I won't be giving any medical advice. And it's really more about is this something that you use in any way? Do like Kathleen said, teas, tinctures, even like herbal bath oils or hydrosols or facial toners, things that you put on your body. Um, Herbs really work so well with flower essences and vice versa. And I have so many ideas on ways to incorporate the two that I would love to share them. And I would love to answer your questions about doing that.
Thank you. And I was really excited before we came on. You were showing me some of your workings towards creating this course. And I was just, through the slightest glance, I thought this is going to be such a great course for anyone who has questions about how do you work with essences and herbs? You've got such a lot of experience. And I, for one, am very excited about your upcoming course on this topic. So there's a lot that you can offer. Maybe we could just start with, why would you add flower essences to herbal medicine? I mean, both can be complete in their own. How is it that adding essences might add more, or, what sort of angles are we taking in order to bring these two things together?
Yeah, I see some distinct cases where it really makes a lot of sense. And one is when there's an emotional or spiritual challenge to that or component to the health challenge that somebody is experiencing. And if you think about it, well, there really kind of always is. It just may be more or less conscious or unconscious or being worked with. So there's a degree there. And I would say in that case, proceeding when it's clear and obvious that, and the individual's really, asking for help. Otherwise, using flower essences that are just supportive will help with that. And another reason to use flower essences with herbs is when the herb itself is recommended, but it's contraindicated or not well tolerated by the individual. Or even when, it's more of like a plant ally is being called to help, but it's just not really indicated to use in an herbal form or not safe to use in an herbal form. If there's a corresponding flower essence, and a lot of times there is, that would be a lovely way to bring the energy of that plant into an herbal formula. Um, and maybe an example, just so that it makes sense, is I think a good example is valerian. Now that's something that is really common in sleep formulas. People take it a lot for sleep, but there's a percentage of the population that is just too heating of an herb, or they have a bad reaction to it, and it ends up waking them up in the middle of the night instead of helping them sleep through the night. And I'm one of those people, so I can't take sleep formulas that have valerian in them. It's too heating for me. It gives me like anxious nightmare type dreams. It's not gonna work as an herb for me, for my constitution. But it's a flower essence. The California valerian is a flower essence, and that does add that flower essence energy of being of helping to relax. And so that's a great example of where um, you could experiment. It's all experimental. This is all something that I like to offer ideas about for everybody to try. St. John's wort is another example where a lot of people can't take that herb because it's contraindicated with a lot of medications. But it's a wonderful flower essences, and it's so supportive when there's mood challenges that could be incorporated into an herbal protocol as a flower essence. Um, and another place that I see flower essences being really helpful in somebody's herbal protocol is when they're suffering with an illness for a long time, like a chronic illness, and they just really need extra support. When there's chronic illness, there's a lot going on, um, and it's very taxing on the psyche of the person. There may be discouragement about healing. There might be shame. There might be um, resentment. And so there are corresponding flower essences that can be added to those formulas to work on those levels with the medicine that somebody's taking. Another reason would be, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to
Yeah.
add that it really occurs to me that anytime there are any of these really complicated chronic experiences, that looking at it from the flower essence side would be really valuable, because sometimes, people have tried all the things, they've done all these things, and yet they haven't really been able to get to the root of the issue. And isn't that where the flower essences can really, cast some light on whatever's happening and allow their body to release some of these things that have been held, and then the body can go, okay, now I can take the medicine and heal internally.
Yeah, and mindset is such an important part of those journeys that it would be remiss not to address mindset in whatever way, and flower essences are a wonderful way to help with that. So just a couple other reasons to think about incorporating flower essences with herbs would be in cases where an individual is trying to change a habit, and flower essences can be really supportive of that. So an example I have is the Herb Farm uh, make company makes a formula called Smoker's Replacement that has herbs that help with support people when they're quitting smoking. And it's like nervous system herbs and herbs that are relaxing to the lungs. The Flower Essence Society has a flower essence called Green Nicotiana that I believe really helps somebody change their relationship with tobacco. So those would be a beautiful combination, a really beautiful joining of herbs and flower essences. And then just, finally too, if anyone is an herbalist and they're formulating they're creating herbal formulas, flower essences could really be useful in harmonizing formulas, in anchoring them, and catalyzing them, and boosting the tenacity of them, or even helping direct the herbs go to where they're supposed to go. So it could really be an interesting way of experimenting with advanced techniques for kind of up leveling a formula.
And I see we have a few people in the audience today who are experienced herbalists, and I would really encourage you to please pop your hand up or add your insights into the chat, because we really would like to hear from you. We know that these two fields are so beautifully entwined, and we really want to help them come together even more. And the more that we're able to talk about it and share with people who might be more familiar with, having a cup of chamomile tea in the evening, and then finding out, oh yeah, there are these essences I could also add to my tea to create an additional effect, to create, maybe work with some of those underlying issues. So we're really eager to hear from everyone here, and to go ahead and pop something in the chat or pop your hand up, and then we can talk with you. In the
Yeah,
meantime, yes, go.
really interested in hearing your experiences and what you've tried, because this is just such a wide open area for experimentation, and it's a lifelong study in both of these things, in flower essences and in herbalism, and all of the related botanical modalities, that it's sort of magical to be able to put them together. And that's something that really excites me. So I'm very curious to see what other people are doing.
Well, and
And
so
some
many of us
people,
are
yeah,
kitchen herbalists, right? I mean, so many of us have been engaging in herbalism, because it has it's so democratizing, where everyone can do it. Everyone can add thyme to a seasoning, and you're practicing herbalism for yourself and for your family. So we love to encourage that as well. And I interrupted you, Ro. You were about to say something.
yeah, some people I do prefer to use essence flower essences and herbs separately, or to do it at different times of the day. So that may not be for everybody, but I'm not one of those. So I do like to do that, to introduce them. And then also just to um remember that skincare is part of herbalism as well. So, well, it can be. The hydrosol, or a lot of facial toners that are botanical in nature, are herbal hydrosols. Those are made from herbs. And those are amazingly wonderful places to add flower essences and use them on the skin, on the body, around the body. And bath salts, things that you put on your body, is just a rich area for working with flower essences.
Thanks, Ruth. Yeah, I see you have your hand up. Want to add something to the conversation?
Yeah, I just wanted to remark on how lucky people are who live in the United States, because as a result of the whole Supplements Act, and also the initiative of so many dedicated people who have developed herbal products of such high quality, this is not the same in other parts of the world. And so the fact that you have access to all this range of really high quality herbal tinctures and different preparations is a privilege. It's not true in Brazil, where I come from. When I try to help friends there, they can't find the products so easily. It's not quite as true in Europe either, because of different kinds of regulations. So enjoy the privilege that you have to be able to play in these creative ways of combining these two modalities. that's just all I wanted to add.
Thank you, Ruth. And you've yourself have deeply engaged in taking herbs yourself. And how do you feel the herbs and the essences harmonize together in your own experience?
Yeah, I can say I'm more of a beginner in that level. I've taken a number of really in-depth courses, but I'm a student, so to just mostly for myself. But I found it's so inspiring to study and blend the approach of the learning about the qualities of an herb and learning about the qualities of a flower essence and this interbreeding of knowledge. This is one of the things that has inspired me the most. Yeah, so that's what I can talk about at this point.
Well, thank you. Thank you for popping in, and it's always lovely to see you and to have you with us. All right, and let's see. Joyce, thank you.
Well, I'm finding this an interesting concept because for a long time, I have been combining the flower essences and essential oils, and I've been putting them into my body products that I use. And it's opening a whole new door. Thank you. I love herbs. I'm always making tinctures and things. So I think it'll be a nice combination.
Thank you. That's
Because
really lovely.
I find flower essence play well with everything.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Well, they add, one more layer. I think that one of the herbalists that I came to know sort of early on in my flower essence training was Sarah Holmes, who was one of the co-hosts of the Herbal Highway radio program here in the Bay Area, and
Yeah.
her, she offered spirit doses, and she offered a type of energetic herbalism that was very much about the spirit as part of the making of the tinctures, and made essences and added essences into her formulas as well. So for me, it's sort of been something that I've been exposed to for a long time, just by knowing these herbalists who, had that, completely immersed into their practice. So it's not such a surprise, but I'm really delighted that maybe we've sparked a little bit of a thought of like, how can I, how can I work with these things together? That's beautiful. Thank you, Joyce. Did you have a question about a particular herb that maybe you're thinking like, what would be a good essence to mix with? This is also a group question. If anybody's wrangling with a formula or an herb that they're taking, like what might be a good essence to add?
Well, I think I'm going to start working on, I'm plagued with awful headaches. I have occipital neuralgia, and I refuse to do the drugs they want me to take. So I've been doing herbal things, but I've also made up, some flower essences to help with it. And I think that's probably where I will work on trying to combine something.
Yeah.
I do have a few things coming to mind. Of course, we know feverfew, and I do white willow bark, and I'm doing butterbur. But in the flower essences, I deal with a lot of Australian bush, and the headache ones seem to be a lot of the ones for anger. So I think I will be delving
and then
into that.
depending on what do you see as the triggers or what's leading up to those headaches, that can give you some clues into the essence to add to that formula. A lot of time for me, their tension is a part of that picture, and the vervain works really well for that picture. There's so many that in the relaxation category.
Oh, yeah, when you want to go into the nervines,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. And the thing about that too is a lot of those nervines have flower essence counterparts to
Yeah, yeah,
um
that's true.
experiment with. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, that's one fun way to work with the concept of dieting. When you're working with a plant very intensively, say it might be rose or some other plant where you're taking it in a number of different versions. You might be making tea with the petals, you might be working with the essential oil, but you can also be working with the flower essence. And because certain families, certain types of herbs, there are so many different versions thereof. Like, we have half a dozen roses just off the top of our heads that we could be,
Mhm.
working aspects of that. So lots of possibilities.
Yeah, and this is a great time to talk about how topicals can be a part of that approach as well. So, not only for the flower essence, but also the herbs and the even essential oils. And, the Flower Essence Society makes an oil called Dandelion Dynamo. So I love their combination. And that's what they're doing. They're combining herbs, essential oils, and flower essences. So they have some beautiful combinations that can give you an example. Like, and you could even just go on the website and look at, well, what are they combining, to get ideas. But that the dandelion flower essence in there in a topical rub that you could rub on temples, as long as you don't get in your eyes or the back of the neck or the shoulders where that tension is happening and might be a contributor to headaches or just tension in general. Um, that's a really lovely example of the use of that infused oil, essential oil, and flower essence. And then you could take the idea of that dandelion flower essence and add it to a different, maybe you have a different massage oil or neck rub or something that you could use topically, and just add a dandelion flower essence to that and see how that can kind of boost the action of that in helping to let go of some tension.
Yeah. Oops. And
Yeah, Joyce, please.
and and that brings to mind the infused oil of St. John's wort, which
Mhm.
would combine beautifully with a number of flower essences. Mm,
Beautifully, including the St. John's wort flower essence.
yeah.
And if some
Yeah.
people might be asking, why if we already have the herb, why add the flower essence? I've already got the sort of plant energy. That's a good question. I think that with flower essences, it is a different preparation method with a different
Yes.
intention, and
Yes.
it's working on a bit of a different octave. So
Yes.
that is, really rounding out the plant energy. In
Yeah.
fact, I think of when we're doing these combinations kind of like there's a deconstruction and then a reconstruction. And I think you might see on cooking shows where a chef has deconstructed some kind of dish and it's in different piles on the plate. So I kind of see that, but we're just then combining them back to, with each other to create a
Mhm.
whole again. And it's holistic, right? So
Mhm.
it's just another way to round things out and get more of that beautiful plant energy.
And I think it's kind of like adding the vibration and the physical and
Yeah,
joining, yes,
yeah.
it's
And then,
layering.
yeah, yeah, the layering, and it can become
Yeah.
very sophisticated,
Yeah.
and it's it's a really fun and lovely way to work with um, plant and botanical medicine.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, Ruth.
I just thought of one more thing, which is when plants are endangered, and you can't really be preparing tinctures or herbal preparations, like, for instance, bloodroot, or even devil's club, which is such a wild plant that is very difficult to work with and also somewhat endangered. And so using the flower essence, and maybe in the case of devil's club, using very small amounts of the herbal preparation, but mostly the flower essences. How do you work with that, Ro? It's just more a question than an observation, really.
Yeah, I think it's, if there's any reason, whether the plant is endangered, it's hard to get where you are, or you just don't have access to it. If it, we all do research on the internet and are like, oh God, that sounds like the perfect plant for me. I need to have that, not realizing that it might be endangered, or it might be cost prohibitive, or honestly, if you're not well trained in herbalism, it might not be something to just go ahead and try yourself without working with an herbalist. So all of those reasons, and also it might be psychedelic. It might be something that it's a whole different story if you take it physically rather than energetically in the flower essence. So, it might be illegal. There's so many reasons why a plant might not be a good idea to take internally. And you just might not have enough information about it in order to make that decision. And so the flower essence might be a good first step. It might be a good place to start. And then if it's something that's still calling you, then you might do some more research and see if it's a path that you should take.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about the essences is that I just know that they're so light, like there's so little plant material required in order to make an essence that I know I'm not, even if it is a plant who's somewhat endangered or over harvested, I know that I'm working with that plant responsibly and in a way that's sustainable. Feels really good.
But I also want to mention that we're not saying, oh, the flower essence does the same thing as the plant, right? So it's not it's not a replacement. It's not a replacement for herbal medicine. It's an addition or an addendum, or an extra piece that's not maybe being focused on with herbal medicine. It's a different focus. So that being said, we're talking about getting the energetic benefit of the plant, not replacing the physical action that an actual herb would have in the body.
Yeah, Beth.
Hi, guys. I just wanted to give a quick share. When Joyce brought up the headaches, I just wanted to share a formula that has been totally life-changing for me that my herbalist came up with. And I know everybody's different, but I'll just throw it out there. It was a tincture of dandelion, burdock, betony, ginger, and violet. And then I added crocoite, which is, I might be pronouncing that wrong, but it's one of Pacific Essence's gem elixirs. And that has to do with not manifesting emotions physically in the way that I tend to do, and probably a lot of people tend to do too. So I just wanted to throw that out there in case it is helpful to anyone.
Could you repeat that, please?
Yeah, for sure. So the tincture was dandelion, burdock, betony, ginger, and violet. And I know that was great for my constitution. I know it might not be for everybody, but it's been really, truly life-changing. And then crocoite, CROCOITE is the essence from Pacific.
Well, thank you for sharing your experience and how
Thank
you
you.
brought
Thank
those.
you. Thank you. Yeah, because I've done dandelion, burdock, and betony, but yes, violet. Yes, that's definitely resonating.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Beth.
Yeah. And crocolite, what you said was the gem elixir?
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. I don't
Yeah,
think I've
I'm
heard
like
of that.
I'm kind of in love with it now. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a really good one.
But in general, I would say that gem elixirs are also, when I say add flower essences, I'm just kind of like broadly any essence, environmental essence, tree, flower, gem. And I think that gem elixirs are amazing for adding to formulas. They can really help because gem elixirs are very much more. I feel like they can help something integrate into the body better. And
Mhm.
so that is a really interesting area to play around with. Um, I've added, black tourmaline to cleansing blends like detox formulas, or a lymph tonic. That would be an idea, or an environmental essence like Portage Glacier from Alaskan Essences. And they have a purification blend, which has a million uses, and in not just internally that way, but also in the environment, in the room sprays, you can put the flower essences in your essential oil diffuser if you have an essential oil diffuser in your in your house, in a room. Um, Flower essences are amazing to just release into the atmosphere that way, with or without an essential oil, but wonderfully blended that. I think a great combination there is with frankincense and the purification blend from Alaskan Essences is just a beautiful way to clear out a room and really make it feel clean. Um, yeah. Does anyone else add flower essences to their diffusers or into room sprays, or have you played around with it that way?
And, just keeping in mind, like, that's totally cool. You could do that in a shared space. If you've got a diffuser running, that, of course, it's in a space that's okay to have essential oils, but, it's okay to have essences infusing into the environment, as opposed to putting essences in your um, s- partner's water without them knowing. Right?
Yeah, we don't dose our people unknowingly, but adding them to shared spaces is totally in integrity and ethical. And and the room sprays and the diffusers are such a great way to do that. I think another idea is adding holly flower essence when, people are kind of at each other's throats in a shared environment, living together, or pets too, right? Kathleen talks about this with animals that are at each other's throats in a shared environment, and that goes for people too. And so holly is a great one to add to a diffuser, and you could add it with a heart opening scent like rose in the diffuser. That would be really beautiful together. Yeah.
Yeah, on the rose oil note, the FES, one of their oil blends is called Benediction. And that is, I love that one so much. It has such a beautiful energy, and just rubbing it on your heart, just whenever you're feeling, one of the reasons they talk about having made it is for, you know, big life passages such as, preparing for death, or, accompanying someone along that journey. And it's so sweet for grief. I've definitely recommended it many times for people who are going through, a hospitalization of a family member, or their parent is dying, and just being able to have that support and comfort from the benediction formula is extraordinary. And if I didn't say it clearly, it has rose essential oil, as well as flower essences as well, that just help the heart, just help support your heart. Is that one that you use?
I love that one. It's just really helpful for especially like the long lasting grieving process. So I used that. I probably used a whole bottle of that after my father died. And so it was so healing and grounding in the sense that it just helped me come back to myself and help that feeling of safety and protection and that I was being supported. So yeah, really recommend that one.
And thanks, Shannon, for your note in the chat. You should say, I make a grounding and protection spray and use red clover flower essence and black tourmaline crystals in it. That sounds wonderful. Thank you for sharing your experience with that. I'd be interested so you had two components to your grounding protection spray. That sounds really nice and clear. And red clover is such an important essence for now, for all the time, to help us with that kind of dread in the air. There's so much chaos and confusion going on everywhere, and it's nice to have red clover in our environment. That would be one. I'm gonna add that to the diffuser for later today because it just can't hurt, huh?
Yeah, and I love that for its grounding effect too. Let's hear if there's any questions, because I'd love to answer any questions you might have. If you're taking a formula, an herb, and you're wondering, well, what flower essence might go with this or might help, help to elevate it. I would love to answer that.
I have a question that's come up a couple of times recently with clients
Yeah, hey,
looking
Leland.
for a flower essence that has a similar spirit to the Hindu god Ganesha. So like for breaking down obstacles in your way.
Yeah. Think about that a little bit.
Yeah, nothing came to mind for me like immediately. So
Well,
Can we expand it a little bit? Just, because it's very hard to take, a god archetype and sort of go, there's one essence. But maybe if we sort of felt it through a little bit more, like what sorts of
mostly for
obstacles?
mostly for breaking down obstacles like mental blocks and um situations in life that are stopping somebody from moving forward in the way that they want to.
yeah, I mean, it's so much going to depend on what it is that is the reason they're not moving forward. But the block, like as far as just that general energy of a blockage, something that's clearing and purifying would be coming to my mind. Something
I'm
like
seeing walnut. Walnut makes a lot of sense to me for helping to like it because it is that link breaker. So every time we have a pattern that repeats and repeats and repeats, the walnut helps us to change that pattern. That's where my head's going.
that makes a lot
Right.
of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe both, maybe something that's helping to clear um and that black tourmaline comes to mind even, that's cleansing out that energy that they don't need. And then walnut for the repatterning. So maybe that's a good combination.
Thanks.
Is it a psychic blockage? Is it an interference? Or
I think probably
is there a need for more strength to face the blockages?
I think mostly mental is the feeling that I have from it.
Yeah, because what occurs to me is things like mountain pennyroyal or maybe even roof or blockages that are affecting the psychic level. But it really depends. Yeah.
Thank you. That gives me a lot of ideas to look at.
So Leland, we know that you're an herbalist and a flower essence practitioner. Can you tell us if you've been combining them together in your blends?
Yeah, I absolutely do. I have 12 different tincture and essence blends that I sell regularly on a variety of topics. Like there's some of my favorites are one's called Tender Little Shadow. So that's specific for inner child shadow work. And then there's one called Shadow Work Companion, which is just like any kind of shadow work. The one that actually sells the most is called Maybe It's ADHD. I was diagnosed with ADHD myself 2 years ago, and so it's sort of a blend of the tinctures and essences that I find the most helpful generally. I know everybody's different, but and so these 12 different formulas are all things that are generally safe for most people, but I also recommend on the labeling for people to take 1 to 3 drops, like spirit dose of them, just to like make sure that it'll be mostly safe for most people. And then if I'm able to have like a longer, more clinical conversation, I might tell them like, oh, this heart magic blend that has, hawthorn and linden and et cetera, is going to be safe for you to take in more therapeutic doses. So I can kind of use some of them in both ways. And then I do hydrosols with flower essences as well. So I do like space cleansing ones. I have one for rituals to connect to the moon. I have I think 4 of those. And then I guess the thing that I would add when we're talking about like reasons to use flower essences with herbalism is that one of the most interesting things that I've noticed in my clinical work is that when I get a client, actually I've had several different clients that have issues of like polypharmacy happening in their life where they have like a list of 12, 14, 16 different pharmaceuticals that they're on for a wide variety of different medical conditions that at least with the people that I've worked with, and I don't know if this would be true for more people, but maybe it's the people that are attracted to me, or maybe it is a more wide-ranging thing, is that there seems to be at some level just like a really deep need for those people to feel seen and cared for. And that almost seems more important than, I mean, I'm not saying that pharmaceuticals aren't important and that they aren't doing important work for the people and that a lot of people rely on them to be alive and etc. But some of the people that I've been working with, once you get into like the deeper levels of talking to them about every single medication, why they're on it, and the story of how they got prescribed these things, I've seen that a lot of things are sort of maybe not as necessary, and working with their actual medical practitioners, because I'm only an herbalist, I'm not a medical practitioner, we've been able to actually get them to lower the dosage of some things or even got off of some things completely in a safe way and been able to sort of fill that space with herbalism and flower essences, because it almost feels like for some of the things that they're taking, it's more important that somebody's paying attention to them and caring for them and giving them something than the work that the actual pharmaceutical is doing. And obviously, if you're using safe herbs and safe flower essences, you're not having the side effects that you're getting from the pharmacy. And so that has just been just so remarkable to see like in practice. So, I mean, I would
So well
obviously
said.
never do that without working with their medical practitioner, but when you are able to, it's really beautiful.
Thank you so much. That is so well said. And I can really see that, and especially just in the way that our healthcare has kind of evolved into a very quick meeting. There's not enough time for the doctor to get to these root areas that you are having time to work with a client on. And then the quick prescription, the very, very quick prescription. And they add up and they stack up, and before you know it, somebody is just on this entire list of things.
And
So
there's been
yeah.
such little research on how different pharmaceuticals work with each other and
Mhm.
how they work with herbalism, that it's kind of scary when people are on such a long list, because you really don't know how those are they might be contraindicated in ways that we don't know about.
Yeah. And that is exactly too. I mean, even just for somebody who's not on all of those medications, that's showing really what's missing. It's missing that emotional, that spiritual component to healthcare. It's not part of that model that pharmaceuticals are prescribed in. It's really not part of that model. not the way that we're looking at it. And so to me, when I think, well, a good time to add flower essences is when there's an emotional or spiritual component to a health challenge. Well, yeah, there really always is. It's just that we may not be aware of it, or we, we may not think of it as important because like culturally we haven't been doing that very, very well. So that is such, the flower essences are such a good way to bridge that gap. And even just starting with just something simple and supportive, because as we see in flower essence therapy practice as well, people just really need to be seen. They need to be seen and they need to be heard. And that's sort of a core problem that we see even, more and more as we become more sequestered in front of our computers and out and not within our community like humanity used to be. It's only a challenge that's going to get more, worse that we're going to need more and more help with.
Yeah, Ruth, please.
Yeah, I would love to hear, Ro, an example of just a really supreme and beautiful dance of herbs and flower essences that you have created, just to inspire us.
Well, I can tell you what I made just this morning, just since it's fresher in my mind. Um, and that was, I was thinking a lot about being on camera and just putting myself out there and, what goes with that. And one thing I do love to do is add flower essences to hydrosols as I mentioned. So I took the Naked Radiance formula made by Jane Bell, in her Hawaiian line, which is just a beautiful formula for kind of putting yourself out there and letting yourself be yourself. And I added it to my rose hydrosol and that I sprayed on my face and around me. And then I thought that a great addition to that would be Pretty Face by FES. And Pretty Face is a flower essence that helps you when your brain starts comparisonitis, because you might, due to today's world of being people on TikTok and influencers, and you're like, oh, I'm not, I don't look like them. I'm not like them. Those little niggling thoughts that kind of creep in uninvited, and might make you feel less than. I like Pretty Face for that. And then to just round that out into a beautiful, stable, grounded self-confidence, I added gold from Alaskan Essences. And that is like a beautiful formula that is a great topical formula. So you're thinking about your face and how you look. And it's kind of embarrassing to admit this online, right? But that's what I did this morning in preparation for this live. And so that's, I think, beautiful because it doesn't take, in this kind of way of using it, it's like situational. It's hey, I'm getting ready to do this thing. What can help me? What herbs might calm my nervous system? Maybe my stomach's upset and I'm drinking chamomile tea. Well, I could add flower essence to that, for example. That's what I love about this sort of going with the flow. What is it that is happening in my life right now? What do I need right now? What herbs, what's in my cabinets? Like what's in my tea cabinet? What's in my herb shelf? And then what's in my flower essence collection? And so thinking about it that way and putting it together for a specific purpose. Again, flower essences always work doing any kind of formulation. You always want to kind of have a purpose in mind. So, you're not just throwing in everything but the kitchen sink and making it real muddy. That's a very specific purpose. And, you can also do the more complicated formulation for like long-term challenges, but either way, those are ways to approach it. So I don't know if that gives you an idea. I think like rose quartz would be beautiful with a cardiovascular tonic. There's some things that would really go really well together. So when you think about an herbal formula and you think about maybe the chakra that it's working on, and a cardiovascular tonic might be working with the heart chakra, then gem elixir or flower essences that are in that realm might be beautiful to add. There's so many examples. I'm sure I could think of more. Thank you for that question, Ruth.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ruth.
Yeah. I
Joyce, did you have a
do
question?
a lot of, yeah, I do a lot with the chakras and incorporating, all of the above too. And while you were talking, I was thinking lemon balm would be a good one to be working with. I work for the Department of Mental Health, and so it's like, but that would be, I don't think there's a whole lot of counterindication with lemon balm, because most people can drink that as a tea, and it would be easy to put flower essences in with it. And there's so many of them that would be so compatible with something like that. So yeah.
Yeah,
Yep,
it's a really
mine is going.
Yeah, and that was our hope, that this would just, get the wheels turning and, spur the creativity, because really this is so creative, and the sky's the limit in what you can do with flower essences, because there's no danger.
Counter.
Like, there's limits to what you can do with herbs.
Yeah.
With lemon balm, it's very well tolerated by most people. The only
People.
contraindication I've heard of is if somebody has I think low thyroid.
Thyroid.
Don't Yeah. But otherwise I've heard that, and it tastes so well. It's
Yeah.
great in other
Yeah.
blends
Yeah.
because of its flavor,
Oh God,
and it's
I
and it
know
grows
people that
crazy.
have been able to get off even like things like Ritalin with lemon balm. It's calmed them down enough and leveled off the different, let's say, personalities of, the manic depression and all. It's just are hyperactive, and it's, and again, most people do tolerate that. So
Thank you, Joyce. Thanks for bringing that piece in. It's really useful. And I feel like what Leland was mentioning, and I have to keep coming back to it, because that quality of listening and presence, not only do we provide that as practitioners or even just friends, just like being an ear for somebody who needs to talk, this is what the plants do for us. I go back to all the times that I've sat with a plant, and just they've created space for me, that they're never trying to like jump in and resolve something. They create space, and they're constant. When you're taking an essence, each time you take it, they're like, are you ready? Is now the moment to create this shift? And only when you're ready, only when there's this spaciousness for a shift to take place and you're resourced enough, then the shift can start taking place. But they're never in a rush. They're never trying to force anything. And it feels like it's such a great ability to be able to ease somebody into the healing process through herbs or through whatever other versions, to have some essences be friends and companions on that path.
Yeah, that is so true. And yeah, well said.
So if anybody else wants to add a piece or to share something that they've been working with, or this is your chance to ask Rochana a question about what sort of essence would be a good mix with your herbal blend. And this is your chance. And if not, well, I guess you'll just have to email us. At hello@floweressencestudies.com is a good place if you have something, and we'll try to help you out if we can with a resource or something. Um, one of the things that I don't think we talked about as much during this chat, but something that came to my mind is that oftentimes an herb is made from the root or the bark or the whole plant, and the essence is bringing in a different type of medicine, a different type of quality, where it's that full bloom moment, that energetic of the pure potential for change. And it seems to me that it's really a good addition to have that, like that peak of its experience, that peak of where it's ready to pollinate and to create seed and create new life, to add that into a root medicine or add that into a whole leaf medicine. Do you think so too?
Yeah. And that's where my mind was going with that sort of reconstruction aspect, that, the different preparations of botanicals kind of deconstruct it. And yeah, you might have a tincture made from a root. You might have a tea made from a leaf. You might have an essential oil or hydrosol that's made from the aromatic extraction of one or more parts of that plant. And valerian is a good example of, if you're taking it as an herb, it's the root, but the flower essence is made from the flower. And the difference is quite palpable. If you've ever come across the valerian root in an herb shop or in the raw and opened up that jar and smelled it, you that is a very different experience. It smells like dirty old socks. It's not pleasant. It's very distinctive. And if you've grown or come across the California valerian plant, the flower smells amazing. It was such a surprise to me when I first smelled that flower, having the expectation that it might be stinky like the root. It's like a perfume from the gods. It is incredible. So to think about that and how, the plant has its own octaves in and of itself. Um, I love the thought of putting those things back together again into something that is more like a multi-dimensional medicine.
Beth.
Ro, in your mind, how do you compare like a spirit dose of herbs to an essence of the same plant? Something I've been curious about for a while.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. And I think when I'm looking to just have the energy of the plant, like it's a plant ally for me, that the spirit dose is a great way to do that. But when I'm looking for that higher octave, and this is another example of, maybe that spirit dose, and the spirit dose, just to reiterate, is just a tincture, a regular herbal tincture, but it's 1 drop or maybe 2 drops. And that's what we call a spirit dose because it's such a small dose. But I feel like that's working with the plant on an ally level, and it's still in that physical kind of realm of taking it into the body. And yet the flower essence is a different energy. It's an energy body, it's an energy body thing. So it's still a different octave. And it may or may not have similar purposes depending on the essence.
That
Hope that
totally makes
answers that.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Beth. Well, this has been really fun. I hope everyone who's listening and who has taken part has enjoyed it. And we will have replays for those who haven't been able to join us live. We do love the live interaction. And I just want to encourage everyone to keep their eyes and ears open for Rochana's upcoming course on flower essences with herbal medicine. And if you are so as eager to hear about this and learn about this as I am, why don't you go ahead and let us know that you are, and she'll know that there are a bunch of students out there who are just dying to study this particular topic because you have a lot more to share.
Thanks. Let us know if you're interested. It's something I've had on the back burner for a long time. And so depending on how soon we get it out will depend on how much interest there is. So definitely, let us know if that's something that you would like to see. We're already seeing Shannon. Thank you for your feedback. She's interested. So yeah. And if you think about it afterwards, you can always, email us at hello@floweressencestudies.com as usual, and tell us what you're interested in hearing about.
Thank you for being with us, everyone. We'll see you again really soon.
Thank you so much, everybody.